Hello everybody. So for today we're going to be talking about the parts of speech. The parts of speech refers to the job any given word does in a sentence. And the examples of parts of speech are a noun, a verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun, conjunction, preposition, and interjection. So we're going to be breaking it down one piece at a time. We're going to start with nouns. So what you should have done already is looked at the brain pop video on just the general knowledge on parts of speech and taken the quiz. So from here we're going to take a look specifically at nouns, and it's more than person, place, or thing. You are going to be looking at the Schoolhouse Rock video on nouns, and that's really general. That's really designed for younger kids. So it'll give you the sense of what constitutes a noun. And then we're going to break nouns into the different categories, the different types of nouns. So on this next slide, you're going to get a slide that shows the word noun with the definition, and then there's going to be a chart that we're going to talk about and we're going to fill out. I'll fill out some of it, and then you guys are going to fill out the rest. So stay tuned. So today we're going to focus primarily on nouns. So a noun is very simply any member of a class of words that refers to a person, a place, or a thing. You saw that in the Schoolhouse Rock video. But in 7th and 8th grade, we also add the types of nouns that talk about ideas or concepts. So in addition to nouns being people, places, things, or ideas and concepts, what we're going to look at today is how we sort nouns according to their characteristics. So on the left-hand side of this chart, I'm going to be talking you through some of these items, and you'll be expected to fill in your chart with the ones that I create, or you can do your own. But then you're also going to need to finish up some of the empty spaces after we go through what I'm looking for. Nouns are divided into several categories. These categories are based on the characteristics of the noun that we're talking about. So the first category has to do with number, how many. So there are two possibilities. A noun can be singular, which means there is only one of them, or it can be plural, which means there are two or more. So for example, a singular person might be a man. If there's more than one man, we'd call it men. Other examples, a single person might be girl. Plural would be girls. So very often when we think of plural, we very often add s or es to make a noun plural. We do have the unusual ones like men and children and moose, or mouse and mice, but for the most part, when we take a simple noun and we want to make it go from singular to plural, we add s or es. If I want to look at singular place, I could say something very simple like there is one town. And if I want to make it plural, in Piscataquis County, there are many towns. So that's where I add my s. If I go over to thing, if it's plural, it might be something like a book. That is a singular book. There's only one. If I have many, like in my classroom, I would have books. Idea is much, much harder because ideas are not something that really have a number. Because when we think of ideas, we think of emotions, we think of ideas, things that don't have shape or size. So singular idea might be love. I mean, I guess you could have multiple loves. But another one that you might think about, singular, I might have a friendship with one person, but I can have many friendships with many people. So while plural ideas exist, they're not as common as plural nouns that are people, places, or things. The next category for nouns is it a common noun or is it a proper noun? A common noun is just a general term for a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. So I'm going to use the nouns that I put under singular and plural. A common person noun would be man. However, proper means that man needs to have a name. So common is just the general term for that person. Proper means what is his name, and we'll call him John. So the next thing, same with a town. A town is a general name for a place. Well, what town are we talking about? We'll call it my hometown of Monson. Next, again, we'll use book is a common name for that object. Well, which book? Oh, let's talk about something simple. Been watching it on TV. Divergent is the name of a specific book. That's the proper name. And lastly, ideas. There are very few proper names for ideas, but there are plenty of common ones. So I'm going to give you an example of a common idea noun that also has a proper name. So a common idea would be religion. Everyone has their own belief system. These belief systems are called religions, and that's a general term. That's common. If a religion has a specific name, then that becomes proper. So, for example, if you are a Catholic person, then the specific name of your religion would be Catholicism. That means you are Catholic. Now, the one thing I want to point out is you'll notice that in common nouns, they're all lowercase. And this is important because as we get older and we get sloppy in our penmanship, if you don't capitalize proper nouns, then it's hard to know if you are naming something or you are just talking about a general thing. So in proper nouns, always, 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 always capitalize a proper noun. The next pairing is called concrete nouns or abstract. Concrete, just like the substance that we use to pour foundations and sidewalks and things like that, is a noun that you can see. Put my little eyeball there. You can see it. You can touch it with your finger. You can hear it. It's got a sound. It has mass. It has weight. So a concrete noun is something that has an appearance, that's something that you can see. So many of my singular and plural nouns I can actually see. So for example, a concrete person, I can see a man. A concrete place, I can see a town. A concrete thing, I can see a book. However, ideas are not concrete. They don't have a shape. They don't have a size. They don't have any sort of substance to them where you can pick them up. Abstract is the kind of a synonym for the idea nouns. An abstract noun is an emotion or it's a concept, something that is in your head or your heart, but you can't really pick up. It doesn't have shape. So we could make some arguments that maybe an abstract person, might exist. So if you believed in your religion, you believed in God, you could make an argument that God is an abstract person. However, because it doesn't have a solid shape, size, feeling, mass, it doesn't really fit the definition of abstract. So typically, we don't have abstract people, we don't have abstract places, we don't have abstract things. Abstract is really an idea. So for example, humor is an abstract idea. You can't see it. You know what it sounds like, but it doesn't have one shape, one size, one mass. Friendship looks different to everybody. Love looks different for everybody. It doesn't have its own size, shape, touch, smell, etc. Next, we have a single term that nouns can be, and that is called collective. And a collective noun is the name of a group. So if you have, for example, let's look at collective and people. If I have a group of students that all play soccer together, a collective name for that group of students would be a team. A group of students that sit in desks in one classroom would be considered a class. The next one, a collective place, that's not as common. But let's say we have a bunch of houses in one area. I might call that a neighborhood. Or another collective noun for that might be called a community, because it's many places together that have one name. The most common collective group, it would be things, especially if we're thinking about the animal kingdom. So for example, if I have a bunch of horses at my house, I might call that a herd. If I have 9 chickens right now at my house, that's called a flock. I could have let's make this a little bigger. I could have a pride of lions, a school of fish, a pod of dolphins. So in the animal kingdom especially, we have these collective names for a larger group of things. When you think about food, there's also collective names. If I buy 12 eggs in a carton, that's called a dozen. If I go to the bakery and I buy 12 donuts, that's called a dozen. Lastly, we don't have any collective idea nouns because there isn't a name for something. Like if you had 27 friendships, there's not a name for a group of friendships. So the most common, like I said, when we talk about that collective noun, it really is in your things, flocks, herds, prides, litters, pods, dozens. Any name that describes a group of something is collective. So the last category of noun classification is called gender. And it doesn't have anything to do with how you're born. It has to do with when we look at a particular word, does it relate to something that is masculine or feminine, or neutral, which has no gender. So this one is going to take a little bit of time to go through. Not every category has a gender, but let's look at the ones that do. So a person, if I'm looking at my first grouping and I have masculine, well, a word that I think about that might be masculine, again, we would have man or boy, nephew, or you could do a proper name like Tom. It's not writing for some reason. If I go down to feminine, let's change colors just so we can see. If I go to feminine, words that I think of for people that are feminine, I might think of girl, mom, sister, grandma. So those nouns have a gender. If I think about nouns that might be masculine or feminine, that might be a word like sibling. Sibling could be a boy, could be a girl. Same thing with a cousin. And for some reason it's not writing, so sibling, cousin, friend, any of those would give you, it could be masculine or feminine. The last category in this gender grouping is neutral. And in the person category, there is not a neutral noun for people, regardless of how they're born, have a gender, whether it's man, he, she, they. So it is, neutral is really reserved for things that aren't non-living, things that are not living things, like my stapler does not have a gender, it is neutral. My sneakers do not have a gender, they are neutral. So let's look at places. Do we really have gender in places? Well, I can't think of anything, because I would say neutral under place would be something where we would say town, house, school. Those are all neutral because there is no masculine place, there's no feminine place, and there is no place that is masculine or feminine. So if we look at our gender again, and we look at nouns that are things, if I talk about animals, this might be where I can talk about gender in animals. So if I said I need a thing that is masculine, I could easily say a noun like bull. If I wanted a noun that was feminine, I could say a hen, because that name is the female name or the feminine name for a chicken. If I want a name, a noun that is a thing that is masculine or feminine, I could say a cat, because I didn't say a tomcat, which would be the masculine. A cat could be masculine or feminine. A dog could be masculine or feminine, depending on if I just say, look at that dog. It could be either one. Things that are neutral, those are your non-living things. My book has no gender. It is neutral. My iPhone has no gender. It is neutral. My desk has no gender. My car. So you'll notice in this list, things that fit in the neutral gender category are non-living. They really don't have any sense of male or female. The last category, again, we're going to look at idea nouns. And again, I want to restate that ideas are emotions, or they are ideas. They don't have any form, shape, sight, smell, taste. They don't use your senses. They are either in your head or they are in your heart, which is my favorite band, by the way, The Head and the Heart, so just checking it out. So there are no typically masculine idea nouns. There are no feminine idea nouns. There are no masculine or feminine idea nouns. However, all idea nouns are neutral. Love is genderless. Hope, friendship. We talk about emotions, anger, those types, even the concept nouns that are not emotions. Education is a noun. It's an idea. It's a concept. It does not have a gender. So this is an overview of how we classify nouns according to, first, their number, then by are they common or proper? How do we name things? Then by your ability to see them or not see them, concrete or abstract. Collective is really separate, all by itself. And then lastly, does it have gender? So for this lesson, I'm going to be posting a blank chart like this one, and I want you guys to go in and try to go across. Start with singular. You're going to want a singular person, singular town, singular place, singular thing, singular idea. Then the second option in that category is plural. Make it more than one. Boy becomes boys. Sister becomes sisters. Remember, you're adding that S or ES. Town becomes towns. Thing, shoe becomes shoes. Idea, friendship becomes friendships. So you're going to be completing this chart, a blank chart. Use some of the ideas that we talked about here. Any of the items on my chart that have an X on them, please put an X in yours, because there are not any nouns that fit in those categories. So I hope this is helpful. If not, we'll go over it next week.